Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at a set of 2-in-1 filters from Vaxis. These are variable ND and circular polarizers built into one filter. And maybe you're thinking, wait a minute, I thought a variable ND filter was 2 circular polarizers. How is there a polarizer built in there as well? But trust me, with these, you're able to dial in your exposure for your video, and then you're able to use the polarizer to actually control the saturation of your skies and the reflections in your videos. And we're gonna go over all that and more in this video, so grab your camera and let's dive into it. Hey guys, Ray Valencia, welcome back to another video. If you're new around the channel, make sure you subscribe. But the way that these filters work, you're able to dial in your exposure with this little knob here, and then you can lock it in whenever you're happy with that. And then you rotate the whole filter around, and that's your circular polarizer, and that's what's controlling the skies and the window reflections. But you also have to consider which way that you're facing and which way you're facing away from the sun to get the proper effect of the polarizer. All right, so let's go over the specs and the details of each of these individual filters, and then we'll go over some examples of how to use them. The Vaxis VFX filters are circular polarizer, adjustable, and a rotatable polarizer built into one lens. It does have a front filter thread too, so you're able to stack filters up on top of this if you choose. But what is a polarizer anyways? Basically, a polarizing filter is used for blocking light off of a reflected surface. It's also good for cutting down on water reflections, so you're able to see right through the water surface. An ND filter is a neutral density filter, whether or not you use fixed NDs or a variable ND, which just means that you can rotate it and change your exposure on the fly, as opposed to a fixed ND where it's just one ND and you have to swap it out each time you want to change it. Sometimes people have magnetic filters and things that are able to swap out quickly, but a lot of times it's also these screw-on filters, and if you're using fixed NDs that screw on, it takes a lot of time to switch those out. That's why I recommend using a variable ND. But a neutral density filter is supposed to block light on your overall image. A lot of people refer to it as sunglasses for your camera, and it definitely is, but you've also heard of polarized sunglasses. Well, that's where a polarizer comes in handy too. Also, you have to be careful with the polarizer too, because you don't want to point it the wrong way and shift your colors in a negative way, like towards green or magenta, whenever you're actually just trying to increase the saturation of the colors you already have. So just be careful with how you're using it. Polarizers work when facing 90 degrees away from the sun. You see how I'm able to control the reflections on the water and the windows in the back, but the sky remains unchanged. Now, if I turn 90 degrees to my left, I'm facing downtown Tampa skyline, and I'm able to get a nice polarization of the sky. These filters are really high quality, made from aluminum alloy CNC, which is a very high quality, durable metal. They come in 2 different strengths. First, you have the red filter, and this is the lower strength ND filter. This one has a 0.3 to 1.5 stop. That includes a 0.3, 0.6, 0.9, 1.2, and 1.5 ND. You also have the blue filter, which is the stronger of the two, and this one has a little bit of an overlap because it goes from 0.9 to 2.1 stops, and this includes 0.9 and 1.2 and 1.5, which were on the red filter, and then you add the additional 1.8 and 2.1 stops. So it really kind of depends on what your shooting scenario is, on which strength you're going to use. I recommend getting a slightly larger filter diameter than what you need for your largest lens, and then using step-up rings to adapt your smaller lenses to it. Like I have this 82mm filter on a 77mm front threaded 70-200 G Master Mark II. All right, we're gonna go over some examples of using these filters out in the wild, but first let's talk about what each filter does while we're doing it. You can spin both filters at the same time. See how the window reflections and the exposure are both changing? That's why it's important to lock in the ND, and then you can focus on the window reflection. See how we just made all the sky go away? And then you can bring it back in if you want to be able to see the trees and the power lines and everything out there. So just really, really creative freedom you have with this filter. Here is our before shot. Now we're gonna add on the filter. And already it looks much better. Dial this in however we want it. Let's say we want it about right here. Lock it down, and now we can rotate the polarizer. And we can see how that reflection just completely goes away out there. We could even go back just a little bit more to darken that second window. And the red one I have used on shoots indoors as well with corporate clients, and I was able to cut down on the exposure of the window outdoors for my Sony FX3 while maintaining a wide open aperture on these DZO cinema lenses. And then I was able to keep my ISO low and maintain that best dynamic range between the highlights outside and the dark interior inside. And then dialing in the circular polarizer cut down on reflections on the plant and the windows. The reason they're a set of filters and not just one filter is because these filters actually have hard stops. So that keeps you from spinning the ND filter too far and ruining your image by causing that dreaded X pattern. Like in some of the cheaper ND filters, they'll just rotate and rotate and rotate 360 degrees or however many times you want to turn it, and they never stop. And that's what causes that X pattern, and it'll ruin your video. So it's more of a professional quality to have hard stops on a filter. This one is actually clearly marked too, so you can see the etchings in it and ridges. Just speaks really high quality for this set of filters. Polarizers are mostly made for shooting non-metallic things, so they are great for shooting cars, but keep in mind it's really only going to cut down most of the reflections on the windows as opposed to cutting down the reflections on the metallic surface. So think of glass whenever you're using these polarizers, but really cool for car videography. If you want to see through the windows, you want to be able to see your driver, just take a look at these examples here. This is with no polarizer or filter on. Now let's add on a little bit of ND, and that helps a little bit with our exposure. This also has the built-in polarizer, of course, but now we're gonna rotate this polarizer in, and now you can see my face and details inside the vehicle as opposed to just a bright reflective glass. Living in Florida, I deal with a lot of rain, so I always like to check the coating on my filters as well. And this one actually did really good. The water beads up nice and was able to clean off easily as opposed to some of the other filters I've shown in other videos. And finally, the price is $79 for each filter, which is actually pretty good value considering that I've paid double that for just a regular ND that had the X patterns and color casting. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and leave me a comment if you have questions about anything at all. Of course, I'll have links to everything down in the description below. And as always, guys, shoot for the stars, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.